what's cracking? And as I always start this off with, as they say, ain't nothing new under the sun, right? So that being said, I sat back about the last 24 hours and I kind of just been running through my thoughts, right? So I know I like to talk a lot of shit. And because of that, I also say that instead of sitting around complaining about shit you don't like, maybe you better off, instead of just, if you're going to complain and vent, at least come up with some solutions in the process instead of just passing off negative energy. So, what's the word? For lack of a better way to put it, to be a man of my own word and give an idea on what I mean by that, right? Even though I personally do not agree with people fighting for illegal aliens that came over in the last 4 years to be able to stay here and act like shit is sweet, but some people may feel away, right? Okay, cool. Now, for my people who feel compelled, that I keep telling you, you putting your life on the line for things that, because you may have been conditioned to feel a certain way because your intergenerational trauma has been manipulated on. And listen, that's fine. I get it. All of us on both sides are actually going through this right now because, you know, as they say, when the people get restless, send them to the circus. And what I'm starting to realize is that as all this is going on, if you look at the market for gold, it's the lowest it's ever been right now. And they're literally restructuring the gold global market and the petrodollar. But anyways, what you want to do in this situation, instead of going out and protesting, approaching law enforcement and risking being charged with obstruction of justice, why don't you find another way to build a case? Like, why don't you look up if there are any racial disparities in the amount of people that are being locked up who are here illegally? And now, I actually did some looking into that myself. Now I'm going to put up some shit right here in the corner. Now, what I did find is that they say that most ICE arrest records are kept private. However, you can have access to these demographics. So with that, you can go with the estimated numbers of illegals and where they're estimated at being from according to the current figures. And then you can go based on what they're telling you the ethnicities or locations these individuals are being arrested are coming from, and you'll get an idea of what proportions of which groups are actually being singled out and, or if you want to call it hunted down or sought out for removal for removal from the country. And then if you actually find disparities, then you can proceed from there. And all I'm saying is that there's a million and one ways to skin a cat. But if you feel that compelled to go out there and you feel like you have to do something, at least do it the right way and don't put yourself in a situation that you're going to end up possibly regretting for the rest of your life. And as someone who's lived a life where I've done things in the past impulsively, you can always dig yourself out of a hole, but sometimes it's unnecessary to have to dig yourself out of a hole. And it takes a lot longer to dig out of it than it did to fall up in it. That's all I'm going to say. But yeah, that's my little 2 cents for the day, because I understand the emotion, because emotions are high for everybody right now. And right now, everybody's screaming at each other, but ain't too many people actually listening to each other. And people feel how they feel, and everyone has a right to feel how they feel. And and I'm including myself in this. Just not because you feel a certain way doesn't mean that you're necessarily right. However, cooler heads always prevail, but conversations must be had. And we all have to learn to get out of our emotions and feelings and just start dealing with the facts. So that's my 2 cents. If you really want to actually do something, find out if there's disparities and who they know came across that border. Because, you know, everyone that came through, they were doing catch and release, which means they should have gathered information for them for their follow-up interviews. So they should know whether they gave fake names or not. They should have some information on file so that you should be able to check country of origin and then the race of those being locked up and who's being sent up out of here versus where they came from when they came in. Do with that what you will. Realize. Transparency forces accountability. Y'all keep your eyes to the stars. Keep that head on the swivel. like I say, it's a dirty game out here. Y'all be safe.